Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
Hello and welcome to the Prince Safe and Sound series brought to you by Facebook. COVID-19 has been a big disruptor in the way Indians work. So the topic that we are discussing today is workforce and employment in times of COVID-19. We're joined by two eminent panelists today. Mr. Sanjeev Bikhchandani, the co-founder of InfoEdge, the parent company of the well-known Naukri.com, and Ms. Rituparna Chakrabarti, the executive vice president and co-founder of TeamLease Services. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining us.
Thank you.
Sir, I would want to ask the first question to you. So what do you think have been the biggest learnings from the pandemic for both the employers and the employees?
So, I'll talk about what we learned ourselves, what happened to us. I think we first began to notice COVID around January when those videos came out of Wuhan of people collapsing on the streets, and we got worried. And then we learned that, look, this could spread globally. And we kept observing it. I know we took one person out of our CSR team and said, look, you just do this half day, just track COVID and send out statistics, news, this, that, whatever. And so we kept ourselves informed from around early to mid-January when those first videos came out. What happened to us also was that the first sort of publicized case of COVID in India was when that flight, Air India flight, came in from Milan, and there was a passenger, and he went to the Hyatt for lunch, he went to Agra, and so on. So one of our colleagues' spouses was cabin crew on that flight. And so she got a notification from the airline, quarantine and stay at home. And that's when he reached out to us and said, I think I should work from home for the next 2 weeks because of this. And that's when he said, okay, it's coming close. And we decided then, okay, we will have to get ready to work from home. Now, we were never ever thought about it earlier. And, if you'd asked me a year ago, do you think it's possible for your company to work from home? And I would have said impossible, right? We required everybody to come into office and work. That was a rule. We did not allow anybody to work from home. But I think our IT team responded magnificently. And we went to work from home 10 days before the lockdown was announced. Right? And so the first thing is we learned, look, you can work from home. It's okay. The second thing we learned is actually in many ways, working from home can be more productive. So I'll give you the example of our sales team. Right? Our sales guys used to do face-to-face meetings. Clients wanted face-to-face meetings. Our people wanted face-to-face meetings. This is Naukri I'm talking about. And of course, other businesses as well, but Naukri. And the typical sales guy would do 2, maybe 3, at best, very rarely 4 meetings a day. But when video meetings began to happen, remote meetings began to happen, doing 10 to 12 meetings a day. And senior management could join any of these meetings from anywhere in India. So second learning, you can be more productive. Third learning is that, look, this is not a long-term sustainable, everybody has to work from home, can work from home solution. Ultimately, human beings are social animals. You need that interaction. You need that face-to-face. I mean, we had the luxury of being fairly cash-rich and very high margin and negative working capital. And therefore, we could get away without letting go of any people. Right? We immediately did a stress test and said, our CFO said, okay, if we cut marketing to zero and we don't give any increments on current cash reserves, we can last for 3 years without letting go of anybody, even if revenue goes to zero. Right? And that gave us plenty of comfort that, okay, so we did not let anybody go. And I think that was a good thing. We deferred increments, deferred bonuses, right? But everybody had a job and on the same salary as they were earlier. Right? And that is good for morale of the company. That is good for employees. That is good for us. It is good for our own conscience. Right? And we got back to work. Quarter 1 was really bad because quarter 1 was lockdown time. But slowly the business began to recover and quarter 2 was much better. Quarter 3 was even better. So I think we're getting back. I think next year will be growth. This year, of course, there'll be negative growth, but we'll manage. So the third learning is, look, if you hang on in there, if you conserve your cash, if you have enough cash, you will come through this. Of course, for those people who actually got COVID, it was not so good. For those people whose family members passed away, or friends passed away, loved one passed away, who perhaps themselves passed away, it was terrible, right? But as an organization, as a society, as a country, on an aggregate, I think we will get through this. The other thing that we notice is that, look, all these precautions, sanitizer, hand washing, social distancing, masks, they have helped. Working from home, we are still working from home. We have not opened the offices yet. And we'll keep evaluating it. But until we are sure there's no more waves left, or there are enough people who are vaccinated and immunized, I don't think it's a good idea to come back to office unless you have to, although a number of organizations have done that. We are preferring to be conservative.
Right. But not everyone has the luxury of, the kind of cash positions that you were in. So, ma'am, what are the trends that you are seeing across industry? There have been some sectors that have been stressed, but some have probably managed better than the others.
I'll talk about 5 predominant trends which essentially have emerged given the pandemic, especially around employment. The one which is obvious, which also Mr. Pichhandani mentioned, is of course work from home. I think a recent poll on our social platforms actually showed us that 70% of the respondents, they expect that at least 25% of the workforce will work virtually in the near future. And I wouldn't be surprised if that number actually goes up. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is also a conservative estimate. The second, of course, is a hybrid model. I think optimized hybrid workplace models would balance the challenges in a virtual environment with the benefits of physical and vice versa. For example, office commute time can be balanced against flexible and productive work schedules. Reduced real estate costs can be balanced against enhanced security measures. Increased isolation can be balanced with rotational office shifts. Then smart staffing. I think the current scenario of a large percentage of permanent workforce with a very smaller share of other kind of employee supplementation for non-core activities, I feel that this entire model is going to undergo a huge change where organizations will actually move towards having a very lean core permanent workforce, and then there would be these outer layers emerging of fixed-term contracting, third-party contracting, apprenticeships, and so on and so forth. And then it brings me to the fourth trend, which is, of course, part of the earlier one, which I talked about, smart staffing, is the final outer layer of getting a lot of gig workforce into the workplace environment. So there will be a lot of freelancers. Organizations will begin to rely a lot more on that category of workforce, which so far has been just restricted to a couple of areas of work. Also, I think what we are seeing with my interactions with a lot of industry leaders over the past few months, we are also noticing that a significant number of them believes that a large part of the support function roles would probably end up permanently working remotely. So in my mind, I think these are probably the most apparent and significant 5 trends which are emerging in the during pandemic environment within the country.
Right. In terms of regulations, the government did bring in changes to the BPO rules and laws to facilitate work from home, as well as to, give an impetus to that industry. Asa, do you think there need to be more changes to the regulations to facilitate the new work environment that we're seeing?
That's an ongoing thing. We'll discover stuff as we go along. And yeah, we will have to make changes wherever required. But I think, look, I also know that human beings don't change that much that fast, right? So in an emergency situation, you've done what you've done. But tomorrow, if everybody's vaccinated and the crisis is over and COVID has been licked, you will find things going back to what they were, is my reckoning. Yes, in some organizations, some of these changes will come about, as Ritu Paras pointed out. But for the most part, I think people will come back to where they were.
So the number of people who will be working from home will say go down from year hence from now, once, probably a majority of the population is vaccinated?
Yes, it is bound to happen. In our own company, we are 100% work from home right now, right? But the question is, there will be, see, what has happened to me personally? I have begun to believe it's okay to work from home. I have begun to believe it's possible to work from home. I was opposed to it earlier. I used to hate video conferences. And I would say, yeah, too girly. I don't want to do it. Why didn't you do it instead of me? I was just not comfortable. But now it's a way of life. So there have been shifts inside people's heads first. And then obviously something will change. But is it going to be a completely long-term remote working society, 90% work? I don't think so.
So now, which sectors do you think may continue to work from home 1 year down the line, and which do you think will return to work from office quicker?
I completely agree with Mr. Bikhchandani that what we are witnessing during the pandemic will not be a permanent scenario. So I don't think, because work from home has its own set of advantages and serious disadvantages as well, right? I mean, I personally am somebody who have, for the last 2 decades, traveled 3 days every week. And then suddenly I have this imposition where I have to be sitting at home for God knows how long. I think it was quite anxious. Infrastructurally, I was quite equipped. I don't think I had to worry about those issues, but I don't think it is from how social capital depletes when you're working from home and staring at a screen. It has its own consequences, right? It has its own impact on your mental conditions and so on and so forth. So I think it has its own set of limitations, I feel. So hence, I don't think we will be a completely work from home or a remote working society or economy. Having said that, there are some organizations which are obviously more amenable to working from home. For example, technology is a sector which is more amenable. I was going through some data which suggests that before the pandemic, in the technology sector, about 30% globally used to work remotely. I mean, even there, by the way, 100% remote work was not happening. But I do believe that that is probably a segment where you will see that more adoption, more flexibility, more options on remote working available. Jobs which involves less teamwork, jobs which involves individual work and submissions and so forth is possible for organizations. And that's why I think I kind of agree with that survey, which actually suggests that 25-30% of support functions might just continue to work remotely for longer. But you will see organizations which are heavily dependent on sales, customer service, which are front-ending roles, will come back to work. And we have to acknowledge 88% of India probably are in jobs which are outbound in nature. And unlikely that scenario is going to change. Marginal movement and shifts here and there will be happening, but most consumer-led organizations will be coming back to work. More manufacturing companies will be coming back to work. They already have in many cases. Maybe media, not the frontline media, but a large part of media might be working offline. Maybe print media will be working remotely or maybe working from home. But yes, I think it's completely dependent on the nature of the job role that organizations will have. I don't think you can make segregations based on an industry or a nature of a company, but within organizations, there will be role segregation emerging based on job roles and job profiles. So that's how I view how it's going to be. But honestly, we don't know what we don't know. We still are all trying to act smart about this whole thing, but there's a lot that's still unknown.
Because of the pandemic, there's been also a contraction in labor force, right? How do you see this going forward? Will people who have moved out of the labor force come back?
Is that a question for me? Should I take it?
Both if you can take it.
Go ahead, Ritwan.
Okay, so I think there has been a definite contraction of the workforce. Job roles of sales, customer service, frontline retail took a massive hit. In some cases, 100% hit. And I think we are already aware of the impact in the initial few days. Of course, there was a comeback strategy. I think some of the government initiatives like Atmanirbhar Bharat, Vocal for Local, PLI scheme, NREGA, I think came in to kind of offset some of those impact. I think while organizations have been impacted by the pandemic and there has been a lot of adoption of technology, I think they're equally trying to reskill and upskill their current workforce and hire more local workforce, because there was a vacuum created because of the migrant workforce completely disappearing from some of the cities. Also, in one of our surveys, we have seen that 89% of the organizations are looking at reskilling and upskilling available workforce, whatever is available within the organizations and locally. And also a large jump in terms of wanting to hire people from local areas as against what it was in the past. Interestingly, another trend which I have noticed that I think because of the huge acute shortage of labor, which some of the sectors, which essentially are essential services, noticed during the pandemic, they ended up absorbing some of those people who were affected, let's say, who were laid off in other industries which were affected by the pandemic. So we saw a little bit of shift happening and that kind of adjustment also. Some of those jobs were not aspirational. We have noticed people who were in desk jobs actually moved into warehouse jobs, moved into delivery jobs. But yes, there is at least those local adjustment and short-term adjustments that have happened. I don't think everybody who's lost a job has got a job, but we are seeing that people are letting go of their aspirations, whether it's good or bad. Honestly, now in current situation, one can't judge. But I personally believe that we are not yet in a position to actually pinpoint when we will be able to recover the number of jobs number of jobs that people who were let go of. However, from September onwards, there has been a clear uptick in hiring. September, October, November seem to have been good. Of course, it's been good on account of the sentiment around the festival season. What's going to be tricky is to see how December, Jan, Feb, March. Traditionally, JFM is not the brightest of quarters for any organizations to hire, even without the pandemic. So it's going to be tricky the next 4 months. But I think by and large, there is an improvement in sentiment across employers to kind of at least get back to hiring. Women, I actually feel there has been an interesting trend which has emerged where to compensate for the loss of migrant workers, organizations opened up their doors to actually hire women employees locally. We've seen an uptake of women, or at least demand for women in manufacturing companies. We've seen uptake in delivery agent profiles, women employees. And yes, I think these are some of the trends I'm seeing when it comes to the overall impact on employment.
But so what does the mismatch of aspirations actually does for the morale of the labor force? People who are trained or equipped differently are opting for probably a lower paying job just to sustain themselves.
Well, look, I'm not sure how many opting for lower paying jobs. All I'm saying is when something like this happens, if you're in a job, you're happy to stay there, right? Because people get risk averse, they opt for security. That's normal human tendency psychology. We've seen that not just in pandemic. We saw it in global financial crisis. We saw it in the year 2000. Attrition rates go down in terms of people wanting to leave a company or an organization because you just want to hang on to what you have, right? And I wouldn't say they have changed their aspirations. I would say they have deferred or postponed their aspirations. Once things come back, see, human beings are resilient people, right? People will come back to normal once this is over. Right? You're already seeing it. You're already seeing the kind of crowds in markets now that, because the positivity rate is going down, number of cases are going down. And, we've seen that. Okay, so now I'm not saying it's necessarily a smart thing because there could be a third or fourth wave. There could be the new strain coming in. Between now and the vaccination, I think people should still be careful. Right? But human beings come back to normal.
But the CMI data that they have, that database shows that the people who lost jobs, the better quality salaried jobs have been the slowest, in terms of bouncing back.
That is natural. That is natural because companies have been through a lot of trauma in April, May, June, and therefore they will not go back to earlier levels of headcount until they're very confident that this is over or getting over is behind us, growth is back. So if you see very many companies, they protected profits, but top lines have not necessarily grown or perhaps they've even declined. That's a natural tendency. You will cut costs when something like this happens. Okay, and that's how organizations will survive and then continue and then start hiring again after this is over. So this is normal, right? It was bound to happen with the pandemic. It was bound to happen with the lockdown. It does not mean it's less tragic. It is tragic, especially for the people who lost their jobs, or people who are in the informal sector, people who have lost livelihoods. It's a problem. The question is how best can we cope? Right? We'll have to ride it through.
Right. Also, would you say that the next, job creation, the intensive job creation would be from manufacturing, given the kind of schemes that the government is announcing in terms of production-linked incentives, and especially the fact that, services has been one of the worst hit sectors so far in the pandemic?
Look, in my view, services will bounce back first because services is easy to bounce back. Right? The moment, things are better, moment demand comes back, right? Services will bounce back. Services are easier to grow, right? Manufacturing is a slightly more medium-term, long-term thing. Setting up capacities, dealing with regulation, actually manufacturing and then selling and then growing the business. So I won't say next round of growth will come from manufacturing. I would say possibly next round of growth might come from manufacturing.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. I completely agree with Mr. Vickchandani. I think India has always, the job growth has always been dependent on three profiles: sales, customer service, and logistics. And my view is that they are the ones who will bounce back the fastest. And because India's economy and India's story is a domestic consumption story. So as domestic consumptions creep up, you will see that all organizations which are basically playing to that demand, and that will translate into sales, customer service, and logistics jobs being back the first. PLI scheme has been a great advantage, but yes, it is still localized, and we are seeing that it's the benefits of the PLI schemes are only being seen in certain parts of the country because there is a polarization of most of these factories and units in certain parts of the country, and hence those places might see a spike in jobs. But if you were to look at a widespread and a equitable distribution of jobs, it will be ushered in by sales, customer service, and logistics.
Right. And my final question to both of you, what would be your advice to those who are out there seeking a job or have probably lost their jobs and are yet to get a job?
Mr. Vickchandani, why don't you?
I mean,
it's for both.
It's you got to hang on in there. You got to keep trying. If you have the resources and ability, try and upgrade your skills, do some course. If you're a fresher, I would say just do a free internship somewhere, improve your CV, get that work experience in the CV, right? Treat this as a gap year, right? And hopefully, let's say by March, April, things might be better, a lot better. If not by March, April, by July, because what I hear from the Delhi government, for example, is that they're talking about vaccinating 80% of Delhi's population within 6 months, right? And if stuff like that does happen across India, in the urban centers to start with, maybe, things will get back to normal by July. With some luck.
Sure. I think my advice has been that now is the time for us to make yourself as fungible as possible, because fungibility is a skill that can help you tide through uncertainties better than ever before. Learnability, I think let's not ever for a minute believe that our past degrees and certificates are enough. I think as long as we keep ourselves, look, today there is a pandemic, and I think I was just reading one piece, an article, which was quite interesting, that the frequency with which such disasters or calamities that are happening in our world today have actually increased over the past 100 years. And there is no reason to believe it's not going to be the same in future as well. Most of the time, gone are the eras when we were fighting countries and individuals, by the way. We are going to fight a lot of unknown factors, and hence, for us to stay relevant and to survive, learnability, adaptability, fungibility are going to be very important skill sets into the future. So yeah, I think, and the last, of course, is flexibility. Like the aspiration question you asked, essentially, if you're not flexible, yes, I'm picking up a job right now, which is not aspirational, but I have to first survive for me to actualize my aspirations. So I think we can't get ourselves locked in any kind of fixed mindset. I would appeal to everyone's growth mindset and keep yourself open to new opportunities, ideas, learnings, and you should be good.
Okay. On that note, thank you both of us for joining us. It was a pleasure hearing both of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Mr. Chandani. See you. Bye.
Bye, Ridhipana. Bye, bye, bye.
Thank you.